Hey, 42 here. As I'm sure you're aware, I've just hit the big 1 million subscribers. I can't believe I'm actually here. It's been an amazing journey that I'll never forget. A few weeks ago, I asked you on Facebook to ask me questions about myself. So here's another Q&A to celebrate this gargantuan milestone. I hope you enjoy. Mark asked, what was your favourite video out of all the ones you've made? I've enjoyed making every video. It's amazing how interesting even the most mundane of topics can be once you learn a bit about it. But my favourite was, can you live forever? I found researching it absolutely fascinating. When it comes to technology, we live in a very prosperous time. There's so many mind-blowing studies going on seeing how far we can push the human body, and reading about them really interested me. Jack, Harshit, Newport, Jordan, Cedar and Alex asked, how long does it take you to make a video? About 3 to 6 days depending on the complexity of the topic. 70% of that is research, the other 30% is made up of sourcing media, filming and editing. Sarah and Christopher asked, why do you wear that certain suit in all your videos? It might seem like it, but I don't always wear a suit when I'm off video. I do, however, like to dress smart whenever I can. If someone goes to the effort of putting a suit on, you know they're fully committed to the task in hand, and it shows they mean business. Just like if I worked in an office, when I show up for work every day and make videos, I want to look my absolute best for you. You've gone to the effort of taking 10 to 20 minutes out of your day to watch me, and that means a lot to me. So my way of saying thank you is looking as good as I possibly can for you. It's not about trying to look intelligent or authoritative, it's about giving you the best experience I possibly can when you watch my videos. Efren, Ross, Demix and Eric asked, what do you do in your spare time? I have two major hobbies. The first is photography. I've been doing amateur photography for almost 10 years now, and I even did it professionally for a short time, but the whole business side of it tainted the enjoyment for me, so now I do it strictly as a hobby. My second hobby is cooking. I love experimenting with food and combining simple, fresh ingredients. For me, cooking is almost a game. I like taking an ingredient and seeing what crazy things I can do to it to really enhance the experience of eating it. We eat every day of our lives, so we shouldn't make eating a chore. It should be something we look forward to and get excited about. Alfred asked, do you prefer to have facts around the US or outside the US? When it comes to facts, I really don't care what country they're from. I choose facts based on how interesting they are, and nothing more. It's as simple as that. If the majority of my facts are based around the US, that's only because it's an interesting country. Sure, at times I tend to focus my figures and statistics around America, but that's only because the majority of my viewers are American. That's also why I use dollars as a representative currency, even though I'm British, because dollars are what the majority of my viewers are used to. I try my best to make my videos friendly and accessible to people from every country. The last thing I want to do is ostracize anyone. Sheik asked, why did you decide to become a YouTuber? And where would you be if you weren't a YouTuber? Well, I already answered why I became a YouTuber in my first Q&A. I'll link to that in the description. But to answer your other question, what would I be doing if I weren't a YouTuber? Well, it's highly likely I would be a web developer. When I was 13, I taught myself basic HTML markup and CSS. A few years later, and I trained as a graphic designer in college. But I soon realized I was more interested with the code working behind the scenes of a website than making the front end look all pretty. So whilst I was in college, I taught myself other programming languages such as Python, Java and C, mostly out of curiosity to see what I could do with them. I've always found a certain beauty in code. A few months after I started YouTube, I was offered a web development job in Manchester, a city in the north of England, and I had to make the tough decision between a safe job in a cushy office or continuing to make fascinating videos, which was what I really wanted to do. This was when my channel was still starting up and it was still very uncertain whether anything would actually become of it. So I took a risk and chose YouTube. Luckily, I made the right decision, and boy am I glad I did, because this whole experience has been amazing. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Bomi asked, do you play video games? If you do, what's your favourite game? Yes, of course, as a teenager I used to play a lot of video games. Unfortunately, I don't play anymore, simply because it's hard to find the time. Very occasionally I get to kick back and play, but if I do have spare time I prefer to invest it into YouTube because I get a much bigger kick out of making videos than shooting aliens. My all-time favourite game is Fallout 3. I just love the unnerving dystopian feel to it. Maurice asked, would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? Tough question. I've put some thought into it and I think I'd have to go with one horse-sized duck, because at least I could always keep it within my field of vision. Try doing that with 100 tiny horses, those sneaky little buggers could be up to anything behind your back. Kishla, Janice, Ari, Joris and Lorenzo asked, what music do you listen to? When it comes to music, I'm very much stuck in the past. I adore 60s and 70s music, specifically the British rock bands that were so typical of the era. The Beatles, the Kinks, Led Zeppelin, etc. I'm also a big fan of folk rock names such as Bob Dylan, Neil Young, Simon and Garfunkel and Rodriguez. Katie asked, what are your favourite books and who are your favourite writers? It should come as no surprise that one of my favourite book series is the Hitchhiker's Guide books by Douglas Adams. But I read very little fiction. I love factual books. I will happily read a book on any topic, but I particularly like reading physics books about stuff such as black holes, the universe, relativity, and all that interesting spacey stuff. That being said, one of my favourite wordsmiths is actually a fiction author, F. Scott Fitzgerald, best known for his novel The Great Gatsby. The beautiful poetic prose meticulously crafted into each and every paragraph stayed with me for years after I read it. Matthew asked, what's your favourite drink? My favourite drink is coffee. There's quite simply nothing better than the smell of freshly ground coffee beans in the morning. But being British, I also love tea. I know, so predictable. In case you were wondering, my favourite alcoholic beverage is wine. Liam asked, if you could have a superpower, what would it be? And what would you do with it? I would love the power to be able to rapidly flick through a book and absorb all the knowledge inside in a matter of seconds. I love learning and that would just be incredible. Okay, I wouldn't be able to beat up many villains with that superpower, but I would be able to deploy my superior knowledge to create computer learning algorithms that predict where the villains will strike next, then cowardly warn the police. Yeah, that concept definitely needs some polishing before it's made into a superhero flick. Andrew asked, when I was a child, what did I want to be? When I was really young, I wanted to be a scientist. But as I grew up, I saw myself going into either engineering or computer science. Both fields always interested me and still do. But as is usually the case, I ended up doing neither. I really can't thank you enough for helping me to reach such an amazing milestone. Reaching 1 million subscribers is by far the most astonishing thing I've ever accomplished in my entire life. I just really can't believe it's happened to me, so thank you and here's to many more years of 42.